What is up, dudes? Hope you guys are all having an amazing day. Today I believe the first few cars that JRP, my buddy's Evo and GTR shop, finally opened up today, and they worked on the first few cars. We are gonna go pay my boys a visit, see what's up with the shop. The floors and everything are all done. If you guys remember from the previous video, it was pretty rough. It was getting remodeled and everything. There was stuff everywhere. All the floors were torn up, everything was taped off and everything. So today we're gonna go over, check it out. There's a car that's getting its motor pulled. My buddy Lorenzo's dropping off parts for his car as well. 45-minute car drive done. I've never been so stoked to get out of the car. The road rage was definitely getting to me this time. Usually I'm pretty good about sitting in traffic, but today it wasn't happening. Oh, this is it. This is all. What up? This is crazy. This is nuts. This is so nice. What up, Jeff? Yeah, I know. What up, dude?
What's up?
What's up, dude? This is crazy. This is your house.
So this is partially complete. This is the engine room. We have another one of these. The bench is arriving sometime next week. We already got like 5 builds we gotta take care of. It's our second day of business, so.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we got all that stuff that we gotta sort out. I have a few Evo 10 long blocks that I gotta take apart. We got another Evo 8 that's coming later this month. So just trying to get everything set up. Finally bought an electronic ring grinder, so I don't have to manually grind it.
Oh, that's sick.
Save some time, you know. Yeah, this is where we have another engine stand. We're gonna have to add more, but we're gonna have to keep the engines probably outside and underneath those shelves over there, just so it doesn't, you know, take too much space up, and just, you know, work on whatever engine I need to work on at a given time, rather than have like 4 engines just sitting on the stand and waste of space, so to speak. And then over here, so a little shop tour of this big shop. So we actually, this morning, we just moved everything in, and at 11 o'clock we already had people showing up, so we kind of took care of our little stuff, and now we got our buddy's Jake's car here. This is getting a full steam motor, so we had some time on our hands, so like, why not just jump on it and take care of it right now. So we're actually going to pull the drivetrain out of it. The transmission with the motor, we're actually going to drop it, so you guys are going to get to see that, you know, the subframe being pulled back and motor coming down. I don't know if we'll get the disassembly today, maybe, if we have enough time. We'll do the disassembly as well, or partial disassembly, you know, just the basic stuff, but yeah, that's what we're working on. And then you guys will obviously see a Ford 11 build finally, either this one or the 3 other ones that we have to do this one, so yeah. Coming along, man. I mean, sort of been a long time in the making kind of deal.
Yeah.
You weren't even aware of it until, what, like a month ago, right?
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
So me and Jeff were talking about it for a while, and then we finally decided to pull the trigger, and here we are.
Yeah, it's sick. These floors are sick, dude.
Yeah.
I'm stoked on
them. Actually, going back to this, these floors, we epoxied the floors, because when we came in, we wanted a different atmosphere, you know, we wanted perception is the name of the game, you know, like you gotta present yourself well. If you're, you can't do good work, and I don't know, I always say like you can't do good work in a shitty place, because it kind of like reflects your work, you know?
Yeah, of course.
But if everything's clean, as soon as a drop of oil gets dropped on the floor, you're like, fuck, I gotta clean that, you know? So your work kind of represents the same thing, where you can keep everything organized, you're not cluttered. So we had that goal in mind pretty much from the beginning. And we're like, we're obviously not just gonna do the floors. We came and we looked at this place, and it had the lifts, and it had potential, but we looked at it, and right away we knew what we wanted. We knew that we were gonna extend this, because this was a little 8x8 office. Oh, okay. So we knew right away we're gonna extend this, we're gonna make it an engine room. That was like the first day we decided on that, before even leaving the area. Like before even talking to the landlord.
Oh, really?
We're gonna make this an engine room, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the walls, you know, me and Jeff agreed on it. It was mostly Jeff's idea to go with the red stripe and everything. So, you know, very professional looking environment, obviously, and it goes with the floors very well. We epoxied the floors gray, And that was supposed to stay like that. And then one day I wake up and Jeff sends me a picture of these flakes on the floor. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, what the fuck is that? So I called Jeff. I'm like, hey man. He's like, hey man. I'm like, what the fuck is that? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, is that supposed to be like that? He's like, well, they said that if you want to make it like durable, you gotta do it this way. So I was like kind of like freaking out, just cause, you know, I'm not used to it. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
So that night, dude, we came and we checked it out, and we're like, holy shit, it actually looks really good.
Yeah, it looks sick.
You know, cause you would think those flakes are gonna like make it look like cluttered and stuff, but I mean, it looks really great.
I like it. Yeah, it looks tight, dude. I like it. It's cool.
I mean, I don't know if it's really nice or it's just our shop and we think it's nice.
No, I think it looks nice.
Or we're just like, we can't do anything about it. No, it looks nice. It looks very nice.
Yeah, it looks cool.
As you can see, it's still, you know, it's still very clean. Obviously, we're, you know, intending on keeping it this way. Mm-hmm. Just so, you know, we have a professional work environment, man. Like it's really a big part of it. You know, keep everything organized. That's why we got all these bins. So every time you take a motor apart, you know, take the customer's car apart, whatever it may be, if it's gonna sit for a while, you put it in a bin, you tag it, you put it underneath the benches.
Shout out to my boy Jeff for the Chipotle and Evos. It doesn't really get much better than this. This is crazy.
We came up with a solution for my car, keeping the head on the block. First and foremost, it was just too aggressive of a timing at that compression level. So running that much boost, the problem becomes that even if you're operating it on the dyno, you can't really reach what's called MBT. So let me explain what that is.
Minimum best timing.
Minimum the timing for max torque. Okay, so best torque, MBT. So what that means is when you put the car on the dyno and you increase ignition timing, every time you do like 1 or 2 degrees of advance on the ignition timing, you should gain about, I don't know, 15, 20 foot-pounds of torque. So let's say you advance it another 2 degrees and it doesn't gain any more torque. What that means is you've reached MBT or you've passed MBT. So at that point, what you would do is you would pull like 2 degrees out of it, and then that would be like a safe margin. The problem with an 11-to-1 motor is that with that much boost is that you get limited on even being able to find MBT. So you might, in theory, not even be able to optimize ignition timing like that. So at that point, really experience has to kind of like come in for those cars, and just like you knowing basically the design of the motor and the head and everything, that okay, at this point, like this much timing just doesn't make sense. It's too aggressive for it. You know, the place it was tuned, the place I was working at, I'm not pointing any fingers, but they just weren't that experienced with that platform. So that's, you know, a part of the reason. Another thing is that the head I used was milled down a lot, like milled down a lot more than it should have been milled down. As I explained in the previous videos, it was actually milled down to the point that I had to like, we had to like modify the valves so they actually fit in the head, and they still have like proper, basically clearance to the rockers, you know? So we had to do all kinds of crazy stuff. So when you do that, whenever you take material off, you're basically, the head becomes weaker because it doesn't have that meat that it has on the deck. So now when you torque it, instead of basically the meat on the head absorbing all that like torque and actually like biting down, what it does is it does like this thing. So it becomes unstable, so to speak. So, and on top of that, so if you, let's say you have that going on, right? The multi-layer steel gasket, the OEM gasket, the multi-layer steel gasket is actually like a shock absorber. It's sort of like a spring, I shouldn't say shock absorber. So what happens is the head is always like trying to lift a little bit. And what that MLS gasket does is it actually like, basically like forms like shapes to the head, for the block. Okay, so it kind of like takes out that flex, if you will, okay? Because that's always happening at like the micro thousandths. You know, it's a lot of compression, it's a lot of, the combustion pressure is really great in the cylinder, so it's always trying to lift the head. So what we have done is actually, if somebody doesn't know what we're doing, they will say I'm stupid for doing this, but I'll explain. So this is actually a composite gasket, okay? Now, let me explain. Composite sucks at sealing fluid and oil, okay? composite is found in most OEM applications. For instance, like if you take an RB26 apart, it has a composite gasket from the factory. A lot of cars from the factory have a composite gasket. So the Evo gasket is actually a superior gasket. The OEM Evo gasket, 8, 9, even the 10 gaskets, they have such a nice design. Like it's a very well-made gasket. The reason I couldn't run it is because the combustion chamber on the head was reworked and it was enlarged. So if I put this in there and part of the gasket is sticking in the combustion chamber, that's like a fuse. You know, like at any moment it can burn through the middle layer and just shoot through and, you know, mess up the gasket again. So if somebody, like right now, whoever we're doing 8, 9 builds for, we have a customer that's doing, you know, he wants the Savage package that we offer now with the 625 rod bolts. And, you know, I told him, I'm like, the motor can take whatever you throw at it pretty much. We're using the OEM gasket for it. I couldn't because I was limited to the bore. You know, my bore size was a little bigger than ideal, I should say, and the head was reworked. So if I didn't have those issues, I would run an OEM gasket and I would never have an issue. Even now, I'm getting a different head. I could run an OEM gasket, but then I wouldn't be any different from anybody else. So I'm trying to experiment with my own stuff and try to figure out if, you know, one thing works better than the other. So here's the theory behind this. These are actually O-rings. These are made out of H11 tool steel. This is a very expensive material. In fact, this gasket costs around $1,200 USD if you buy it retail price. We paid a little less because we haven't, you know, we know the guys that make them. A lot of, I got these from Extreme Tuners. A lot of people, you know, talk shit about them, but they know what they're doing, man. I mean, they manufacture their parts in-house. I'm not fanboying, I haven't even ran this. I'm just saying, like, they obviously make badass parts, because if you can take a look at this in person, you would understand why I'm deciding to run it. But anyway, long story short, these O-rings have 3 peaks on them. So it's like a peak. I don't know if it's focused in all the way, is it?
Yeah, you can kind of see it.
Okay. So those peaks, basically, what will happen is this one is a stage 2 gasket. So what this means is we actually have to take a block and we have to cut on top of the cylinder. We have to cut 1 millimeter down to fit this ring on there. So this actually gets installed on the engine block. And then this goes on. You know, this is for the obviously coolant passages. This doesn't deal with the combustion pressure anymore. And then when you torque down the head, what it'll do is this is tool steel. This is a very strong material. Aluminum is very soft. So when you torque this down, these valleys will actually bite into the head, hence sealing the head. That's the whole theory behind this sort of gasket. This is the same technology that Mix Motorsports is using on their Baghdadi Evo, the Evo that made 1238 wheel horse, 74 pounds of boost on a
74 pounds
block. So this is, they're using bronze rings, bronze aluminum rings or something like that. They're not using these, but it's the same theory. And then I have another one. This is for mine. Actually, sorry, this is mine. This is for Jeff's motor. This is the one that goes on the block. Sorry, this actually stays. This you don't have to modify the block, pretty much. You just lay it on the block. Another advantage that you gain, if you will, it's not really an advantage, but if you're using a composite gasket, the gasket itself is not very sensitive to what kind of surface finish you run it with. Like, let's say you're trying to use an MLS gasket, right? If you're trying to use a multi-layer gasket like the OEM, you need to make sure the surface of the block and the surface of the head are perfectly like soft. As in, I shouldn't say soft, smooth. I can't remember, I think it's like 15 to 20 RA, but it's very smooth, like it's almost like a mirror-like finish. In fact, if you actually see machining marks, it's almost too rough for an aluminum, for a multi-layer to seal. Is it gonna seal? I don't know, probably, but the best thing to do is to make sure it's like a mirror-like finish. If you tell your machinist, hey, I'm gonna run an MLS gasket, they should already know what kind of machine work to perform on the block and the head. So with this one, you know, obviously the smoother the better, honestly, but with this one it's not as sensitive because this is just a composite gasket. This actually, like, it's very soft. This will actually take form into the imperfections of the head. And really, this is doing all the sealing. If I were to use a composite gasket without rings like this, it's a guaranteed head gasket failure at that boost level, because this gasket is not, the gasket itself is not strong like the NLS gasket is. So that's the theory behind this. This is, you know, another thing we're trying with the shop car and my own car, actually. And then we have the FP Super 99 that we, did you get a video of that?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Let's see it. Oh, it's in here?
No, this is for Lamborghini Huracan. This is another project that you guys are gonna see soon.
That thing's huge, dude. In comparison to the 64? Oh my god.
So it'll sit like this, sorta.
Jeez.
And then, yeah. So we wanted to do something similar with Jeff's, but we're actually probably gonna run a bigger turbo on his car.
Bigger than that?
Bigger than that, probably. Yeah, probably a 72, 75, which is a similar size turbo. Yeah, I was suggesting we were on a 75 millimeter, 76 millimeter. But at that point, it's kind of pointless. The hot side plays a really big role also in how much power you're trying to make and how much boost you get restricted to. Because if you run like a 0.82 AR V-band hot side, right? At like 55 pounds, it's gonna start choking. So you can't really make more power. It's kind of pointless. It doesn't matter how big the turbo is. You know, you're obviously gonna make more power with a 72 mil than you would on a 64 mil, but it's still gonna limit you on the amount of exhaust that can flow, so to speak. So that's why you see people going with like a T3, like a big T3, or like even the T4s. I'm gonna fill this block, so you guys are gonna get to witness all that. We're actually gonna fill the block with concrete.
Here?
Yeah, we're gonna do it here.
Oh wow.
And then it's gonna go to Mike and get machined. And one of the benefits that we get, being that it's a E90 motor, the motor is going to be on E90 all the time. Ethanol basically burns cooler. Ethanol does burn cooler. So it's alcohol, okay? When it evaporates in the cylinder, it basically absorbs the heat. So it's just like alcohol. You know how you put it on like whatever, it like basically dissipates?
Yeah.
It does the same thing and it takes the heat away. So if we were to fill a block on a pump gas car per se, right? Or a gas that like C16 or something that doesn't burn cool. What'll happen is if you fill the block, the bottom of the cylinder, when the piston goes down, it can't get rid of the heat that's on the bottom because the piston and the block are both gonna expand, right? The piston's expanding, the block has nowhere to go because it's pushing against concrete.
Oh yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
So with E85, you actually get the benefit of not having to run stupid loose clearances just to, you know,
cool it?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, no, just so it doesn't have to expand as much.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a pump gas motor and it's trying to expand and it's pushing because it's burning hotter than E85, right? It's trying to push against the block and the block it can't physically expand or else it'll crack or something, you know?
Right.
What'll happen is you'll actually wear out the piston skirts.
Oh.
Unless you run super loose clearances. You know what I mean? Which if you think about it, it's a full-on race car. If you think about it, it's a full-on race car. But still, if I can basically help running a little bit tighter clearances, you know, make better compression.
Less blow by.
Exactly. So, you know, these are all experiments we're doing. I mean, so we're doing it on our own car. So if somebody wants it, we can offer them the right path, so to speak. You know. But yeah. 58. He's not even close to maxing it out. This was a stock motor car, 31 pounds. Piston rings on #1 cylinder, #1 piston or shock. So.
What did it make, even with that problem?
I think 521, I think, on 5159.
That's pretty decent.
I think 520 or something. It's a flex fuel car.
It's pretty decent.
Yeah, so it's gonna be our sleeve motor package with our built head package. So it's gonna get +1 Ferro valves. It already has GSC S2s. It already has GSC springs and retainers. Not the most aggressive cams, but with this turbo, it'll make good jam. You know, it'll make a lot of power. It's still a 2-liter. We can basically, when I get those sleeves, I can tell my machinist, hey, like I want to run like 89mm pistons, or like I can tell them what size pistons I want to run. If I run 89mm pistons, I can just get a 90mm head gasket from Bryant Power or whatever, and it's a 2.2. It's almost a 2.2 liter. So you get a big bore big displacement sort of deal, but it's not a stroker. So you can rev it out higher, and the rod to stroke ratio is not as bad as a stroker kit would be. But you give up the fact that basically it doesn't have as much room to seal now because it's a few millimeters bigger. As opposed to just keeping it a 2 liter, putting some good pistons and rods in it, and putting an OEM head gasket on there. Or a Cosworth, like you guys saw in my car.
Right.
So we decided to go that route with him because he wants to make 800, but he's like, in the future I might want to, you know, make stupid amounts of power. So I'm like, you know what, let's do this. Let's also upgrade your rod bolts to 625s. You know, just a bunch of different stuff that we basically talked, and we basically guided him towards the right direction, because, you know, I don't want to just, you know, put all these parts on there and he just take his money and, you know, okay, now it's a 1,000 horsepower capable motor, but he's only gonna make like 550. You know what I mean? So it's all a balancing act, so to speak. Like, you can save like almost $1,000 if you just want like regular head studs, if you want regular rod bolts. But then it comes back to, okay, you're spending almost 10 grand, or sometimes more than 10 grand. Do you really want to, you know, risk that $200 in your pocket? You know, do you really like choose that over, you know, being able to reliably make that 800 horsepower?
Right.
Again, it's all balancing act, man. Someone comes to me, they tell me they want to make a certain amount of power. From what I know, I'll tell them, hey, this is what you need to run. Nothing more, nothing less. I mean, you know, I'm not gonna bullshit people to make a few extra $100. So. Then we got Lorenzo's car coming in tomorrow. We're gonna drop his motor in there sometime tomorrow. We have to figure that out. We got another cylinder head job tomorrow, so trying to stay busy. Sorry guys, I know I talk a lot. Are you? So what I'm doing right now, you're recording? So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually taking the V-band off of the turbo. Off of the down pipe actually, that gets mounted to the bottom side of the turbo, back side of the turbo. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this down pipe out, we're gonna take this transfer case out, and then we're actually gonna disconnect the steering linkage. We're gonna mark it so we don't forget where it goes, and then we're actually gonna lower and pull back the subframe. So when we do that, it gives us all the room to drop the whole drivetrain. Very straightforward. A little bit of inventory, what I feel like every Evo shop should have, or any shop really. We got some different variants of oil. We got Mobil 1550 for Built Motor Evo 10s with Mivec and stuff. I don't like to use conventional oil. We got the 1040 for the, you know, everyday Evo, the daily driver stock box. We got some Precision HPL 2050. Low key for my car, but if somebody needs it, I don't know. We got Brad Penn and the new boxes. They don't look as cool as they did, but it's the same oil. Brad Penn 2050. That's good for Built Motor Evo 8s and 9s. We like using them. Granted, you change the oil often. You change it every, like, I would say 1,500 to like 2,000 miles instead of, you know, leaving it in there, because it's a partial synthetic, and what will happen is it will actually start gunking up. And if you use it in very cold climates, actually, I've heard that it can actually like get like so thick that it doesn't really want to go in the oil pickup.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And also it gets diluted really fast. So if you're using it with ethanol, E85, what will happen is the blow-by gases will actually affect this kind of oil more than, like, let's say the Precision that costs almost 20 bucks per quart. But you don't necessarily need that. Offers great protection, but so does the Brad Penn. So, you know. And then obviously, you know, we got the Redline stuff. We got MT90s, we got MTLs. So when you mix 2 of these and 1 of these, and that's called a cocktail. So we put that for the transmissions, the shock proof. I like using them on Evo 8s or like non-ACD transfer cases. You can also use them on the 10s and the 9s, it doesn't really matter. I prefer using the OEM stuff for the transfer cases, just because they're really sensitive, especially the ring and pinions on those wear. So if you can use something that's been proven time and time again, they're kind of hard to get now. I guess they're not completely legal in California, or I heard something like that. I'm not completely sure. I mean, we got it today, so I don't know if that's illegal or not. But we got some SP3 ATF. This is going to be for your power steering fluid and transfer case fluid, and ACDs out of the transfer case. So We also got, you know, oil filters and stuff, just basic everyday stuff. M8 by 125 bolt. It's gonna be the same for Evo 8s and 9s. There's an input shaft that goes inside. Basically, it goes through the transmission to the transfer case, and it's better if you take this off, but I'm not gonna do this for that demonstration. Basically, what you do is you screw the bolt in there, and then you use a slide hammer. You basically bang that shaft out. So another thing about the cars that you guys are gonna see with the shop cars is we're both actually going to a standalone system. I already got a Link G4, which is a direct plug and play. So you take the OEM circuit board ECU out, you plug it in. I wish I could show you. I wish the car was here because it's pretty cool. It has an onboard map sensor, so there's a vacuum line running through the computer.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
That is kind of weird.
Yeah, the Link G4, that's it's a pretty cool system. We're gonna, obviously from now on, we're gonna do everything ourselves, even when it comes to calibration and everything. So you guys are gonna, you know, see that, everything in action. As far as wiring goes, all the turbo setups, everything that we're gonna do on our cars. I mean, those are gonna be things that you don't see most of the time with customer cars, you know, like the block filling and all that stuff. For Jeff's car, actually, we're doing the AM Infinity, the 8-inch, which is capable of controlling 8 injectors.
That's crazy.
We're gonna do individual lambda control, which basically every runner of the turbo manifold is gonna get an O2 sensor, a wideband sensor, and then you can actually optimize the fueling for every single cylinder to match what you're trying to make. Because usually when you have a wideband sensor, right? What it's doing is it's taking the average of all 4 cylinders and it's giving you a reading. So cylinder number 1 maybe at 11.5 AFR, while the rest are at like 10.8 or whatever.
I did not know that, so it's like kind of inconsistent.
There may or may not be inconsistencies. Most of the time there is. That's like every time a car with 4 widebands, you know, individual lambda control ECU, you see those cars making more power than like a stock ECU car. I mean, there's always a reason for that. Stock ECU is great. I mean, people run record times all the time with that stuff. You know, it's a very capable ECU, but you know, we're also trying to adapt with the aftermarket technology and, you know, do these things so that, you know, down the road when somebody comes to us and wants to do a standalone install, wiring, whatever it may be, we've done it, you know, we've tested on our own car. You know, most of that stuff basically comes down to that. You know, we're trying to be the ones to like do it, so we're not basically copying anyone else, or we're not you know, doing something we're not sure of, you know. There's going to be a lot in store for us as a shop, as a family, all of us, you know. Because we're really trying to push things,
These are all the parts for the RB26 that Ronnie's doing. Got the Ferrera valves, we got Tomei parts, we got King bearings. As you guys know, Ronnie likes to use King. He's never really used ACL, doesn't have a problem with ACL, but just has used King bearings and never had an issue. Is this also for the RB?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, Jesus.
Check out the panel.
Oh, wow. That looks like a lot of money.
Yeah, $3,000.
So Ronnie's just about done pulling the 4B. He's just got a couple other things he's got to take off. Pop the release bearing, pull the subframe back. Jeff and I got this trans jack we're going to put together right now, because he's going to need this right now when he's finished obviously pulling that out. Have you ever built a trans jack before?
No, we're about to learn.
Your favorite Evo 9 stopped by with this transmission and his new built motor setup. Your favorite character showed up. Tell him what you're doing. Why are you here?
Huh?
Why are you here?
Ronnie and Jeff put my car together.
This is his bottom end. This is a de-stroked 1.8.
Yep, exactly. So he always puts me on the spot.
So Ronnie is having some difficulty getting the release bearing to pop. What are you doing right now, sir?
Okay, so this car has a ACT monolock, which is an upgraded form of the wedge color that goes on the factory pressure plate. So the problem with those is, as you guys saw in the video of Asus's car, it pops out sometimes when you shift very you know, when you're driving the car hard, pretty much, it has a tendency to pop out, because if you like basically put a lot of pressure on it and release it real quick, it'll actually like pop itself out. So what we do, or you know, a lot of places will actually upgrade to an ACT monolock, which is like a $70 unit. It's like an upgraded form of the wedge collar that goes on there, and it's a lot easier to pop out usually, and it never pops out when you shift. When I say it's a lot easier to pop out, I mean when you're trying to take the transmission off, or you know, when you're trying to disconnect it. So this engine's coming out right now, and I'm gonna have to disassemble it. But if I leave this and try to do it outside, it's gonna be very difficult. So I always pop the wedge collar. Now the wedge collar is a monolock on this, but it's actually messed up. Like the actual spring on it is messed up. So I have no choice at this point but to basically unbolt the pressure plate and leave it on the throwout bearing. So when I take the transmission off, it's gonna be apart from the engine. So the pressure plate is gonna be on the throwout bearing, and then at that point I would have to basically get the monolock out, which at that point it's a lot easier to do because once the engine's separate from the transmission, it's just a lot easier to do. But at this point, in order to make my life easier, once everything's out, that's what I have to do. I have to basically unbolt the 6 Allen bolts on the 680 twin, or the 12mm bolts if this is a factory style, like ACT or like a comp clutch single disc, you would have like a 12mm bolt, like the hex bolt. So I'm gonna have to unbolt this, and the next step's gonna be basically the transfer case is unbolted, it's ready to come out, so we're gonna put it on the trans jack, bring the transfer case down. Steering linkage is already disconnected. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these 4 subframe bolts off. We're gonna lower the subframe on the trans jack, and we're gonna pull it back with a strap from the sway bars. So we're gonna put a strap hook on the rear sway bar and an actual strap, like a long strap on the front sway bar, and then I'll ratchet it back and you guys will see how it is. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to give us all the room we need to lower the motor so it doesn't have any interference. The only interference is going to be this compressor unit. Basically somebody has to keep an eye out on this and keep this out of the way while I'm lowering the motor. Aside from that, it's very straightforward, and it's a piece of cake to basically pull back the subframe. In fact, that's what I do for every clutch job that I do. So I don't understand when people charge $1,500 for a clutch. You know what I mean? Like, we could do it for half of that. Yeah, it's really not that hard. 15 minutes later, we're on bolt number 3. This makes it a lot more of a pain, but out of 10 cars you do, 1 or 2 will give you this issue. And even then, it's not a big deal.
Hey, where can I meet at?
Tomorrow what? You can talk. It's fine. There's been music playing over this.
Brad just said he had sketchy time like a while back. This is all Long Beach skate park.
Huh? And just like that, the 4V11 is out. This thing's crazy, man. Ronnie, always getting it done? I say you're always getting it done. Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, so this is gonna get taken apart tomorrow. The transmission, actually, I don't know why we put it here, because the transmission still has to get separated from the motor. And then we can mount it and bring it here and take everything apart and inspect it.
I don't know if I got a clip of this, but this is all of Lorenzo's parts coming in for his car tomorrow. He's got his Evo 8 transfer case, his transmission, CBRD, radiator, STM catch can. I feel like I'm missing some other stuff, I don't know. Got a whole box of goodies right here too. Uh-oh. First day of business is a wrap. Till tomorrow. So these guys have been here since 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, how many hours were you guys here?
16 hours.
16-hour day is wrapped up right now. First day of business. Jeff is stoked. You're stoked, huh, Jeff?
Very stoked. Love you.
Thank you, Ronnie, for having me. Always getting stuff done. Only at the beginning. Anything you want?
16-hour day, normal. If you guys want anything done, if you guys want like a how-to or whatever, just, you know, mention it in the comments and we'll take care of it. I mean, we're doing everything here, so anytime Josh is free and you guys want to see something get done, just let us know, and we don't mind. We don't mind sharing information, man. We all learn from each other, so you know, if someone can learn it, that's trying to do it for themselves, we don't mind it. We're a shop, but you know, like that's how I learned. So you know, we want people to, if they really want to learn and they want to do it themselves, we don't mind helping people out. I should open a hotline or something. But like what the 4B11 build we're gonna do here, you guys are gonna get to witness that, and you know, everything that's involved with it, timing a 4B11, summing the bottom end. It's, you know, pretty straightforward. It's just like any other bottom end. We got some GTRs that are very interested, that are gonna, probably by next month we should have like at least one build in here. There's a lot in store, let's just say that. With Josh's car, with our cars, they're just, stay tuned. You guys are gonna like what's coming up.
Cool.
Style whack, your Aeroflow whack, the way you comb your hair is whack, the way you sound off is whack.